So Fusion 360 video 2, making a stool designed for Year 9 construction. So in our last lesson we created a piece of timber. We looked at something that's 450 by 450 and 15 millimeters thick, typical to our sheets of plywood that we have in the workshop, and that's what we're going to use to cut this stool out of. Remember that our stool is something that looks like this. In this lesson what we're going to do is to look at sketching a stool leg and then removing the timber away so we're left with the shape of the leg. So first thing we need to do is create a sketch on our surface of our piece of timber. So we're just going to click on the Create Sketch tool up here, and then we're going to click on the surface in which we want to create a sketch on. And because our timber leg, our stool leg, if we open it here really quickly again, oh no, I've lost that picture. Give me a second, see if I can't find it. Because our stool leg here is rounded and is tapered in at different points and things like that, we're going to need to put in some construction lines and some points. So today in Fusion, if I just pull that back up, we've created a sketch, and the sketch we're going to create is a line. So we're going to draw a line on our surface of timber here. So you can press L for line, or you can select the line tool in the top left hand corner. And then we're going to select this little triangle or arrow over here on the right hand toolbar. And what that does is it means that we'll be drawing construction lines. So what we're going to do really quickly is just draw 3 construction lines running down our page, and we want them to be parallel, but we not really concerned about where they sit at the present. You can see these lines are orange. If your tool does something like this, it's quite simple. You can just press Escape and that will leave the line tool, and then you can press L for line and it will bring it back up for you. We also want to do a midpoint line where we connect it to straight down the midpoint of our rectangle. You can see that that line is black. That means that it recognizes that the line is in the middle of our piece of timber. And we're going to do another 3 lines on this side of the piece of timber. And we're also going to do one about 1/3 of the way horizontally at the top of our timber, and they're going to help us form the points that we need our timber to taper to. So they're called construction lines. If I finish that sketch, you can see it adds another sketch down here in the toolbar, but none of these construction lines are constrained, which means I can still move them. That's why they're orange. When a line is drawn and it's constrained, which means that it has an identified point of origin and it's locked in, you cannot move that point. So I'm just going to come back in here to edit this sketch. You can see this line here that I drew as well doesn't go to the bottom. So what I've just done then is I've just moved it so that it's now connected at the top and the bottom. What I need to do is constrain these construction lines. And to do that, we're going to hit D for dimension, and that gives us the dimension tool. And what I can now do is I can click on the point and the reference point or the side of the piece of timber, and I can drag it out, and clicking at the bottom, I can place the dimension on the page, and I can get that dimension to be whatever I want it to be. So the first one we want to be 40 millimeters. Typing in 40 and pressing enter, you can see that that construction line is now constrained. It's turned to a black line, which means I can no longer move it. We're just going to dimension all of these lines off the side of our piece of timber. So again, clicking on the side of our piece of timber and coming across to the next line, I'm going to dimension this line at 60 millimeters. Pressing enter, it dimensions it for me. Again, I'm still on the dimension tool. I can see the tool next to my arrow is the dimension tool. I'm going to click on the side of the piece of timber come across to my next construction line and bring it down, clicking again to place the dimension. I'm going to make this one 120 millimeters. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the opposite side of my piece of timber, so that they're all dimensioned the same. 40, enter. 60, enter. And 120. And then I've got one line left to dimension, and that is this sideways line or horizontal line that's up here. And I want that one to be 100 millimeters. So now I have all my construction lines in play. What we need to do now is go back to the line tool. So I can press L for line, or I can select the line tool. Now sometimes, because the last lines we drew were construction lines, we want to make sure that these lines are not construction lines. So if you've got that construction tool line selected, turn that off, and what we'll be drawing now is solid lines. And these solid lines are going to start at the point down here. You need to make sure that you snap to your points so that you get the right ones. And we're going to come across to the top here, and then we're going to go from the top across to the 120 millimeter line. Actually, we're going to take this one all the way across the top, my apologies. All the way across the top, and then we're going to go from this one down to the bottom corner, and from the bottom corner into here, the 60 mil line, and from the 60 mil line up to the 120, making sure that it snaps to your points, and then from the 120 mil line to the opposite one, and back down to the bottom one, and then out to the edge. If you need to zoom in and out to make sure you get your points correct, make sure you zoom in and out. And you can see in there is the shape, starting to take the shape of our stool legs.